War-weary Palestinians now face another mass displacement and an increase in Israeli attacks in Gaza against Hamas, after Israeli officials said the Security Cabinet voted to expand military operations in Gaza. The official telling CNN that the plan involves, quote, the conquest of territory and remaining there. It also calls for creating a new framework for delivering assistance desperately needed as the people of Gaza endure what is now a ninth week of an Israeli blockade and all humanitarian aid. These moves coming ahead of US President Donald Trump's planned visit to the region, to the Gulf, later in May. Well, I'm joined this hour by CNN political and global affairs analyst Barak Rafid, also the global affairs correspondent for Axios. Always good to have you. Barak, let's start with Israeli officials suggesting this operation is expected to go forward after President Trump's visit, very specifically. The vote is in. They've agreed, they've voted for this expansion in operations. What do you make of this?
I think, Becky, that this is a signal that while the Israeli cabinet approved the operation, it is still on hold. And what Netanyahu is hoping to achieve, and some other members of his cabinet, is to use this decision and President Trump's visit to the region next week to somehow, rock this boat of the stalemate in the negotiations over a hostage and ceasefire deal in Gaza, that at least for now is completely stuck. And they hope that Hamas will see this decision and say, well, you know what, maybe we'll soften a bit our positions. But Becky, at least for now, Hamas doesn't seem to budge, and it doesn't seem also that it's very concerned by this upcoming massive Israeli operation in Gaza.
Meantime, we've also had it on good authority that Israel is looking at this to establish a new mechanism for aid deliveries. We certainly have heard Donald Trump say that we've got to be good to Gaza, I think was his line a week or so ago, and that they need food and aid, medicine, very specifically. We know the situation is dire there. We also know that the UN and aid agencies have announced that they won't cooperate with a new Israeli-US plan to establish this new mechanism. So what do we know at this point? And what's the likelihood of this moving forward to some sort of proposal that everybody agrees on?
I think at the moment it's not very likely, because it's all connected together. Okay, if there's no hostage and ceasefire deal by mid-May, Israel will launch this massive operation. Part of this massive operation is displacing again hundreds of thousands of Palestinians to the southern parts of the Gaza Strip, with the hope of building there some sort of a humanitarian area that will be managed by an international foundation, that is still not really existent. And this foundation will get money from donor countries. There are no donor countries that have agreed to give money. And they will, deliver humanitarian aid to those 1.5 million Palestinians who will be there. This is all great on paper, but nothing, I stress, nothing of that has still really happened. And I think that if this is going to happen in 2-3 weeks, then we might find ourselves in a massive, massive, massive crisis. And Becky, another thing, if there's one thing I hear from a lot of Israeli officials, is that the Trump administration is sort of checked out of this whole thing. They're focused on Russia-Ukraine. They're focused on nuclear talks with Iran. But the Gaza issue, which Trump focused on and pushed very hard during his inauguration and managed to get, a hostage and ceasefire deal together with the Biden administration.
Sure.
In the last 3 months, it seems that nothing of the U.S. efforts has borne any fruit.
Yeah. Now, you talk about the US being focused on Iran talks. This weekend, the Houthis targeted Israel's main airport with a ballistic missile. Of course, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu blames Iran for being backing the Houthis and effectively being behind this. Have a listen to what he said after the attack.
We are operating against them. We acted before, we will act in the future too. I can't elaborate on all of that. The US, in coordination with us, is also operating against them. It's not one and done, but there will be hits.
Notably, he said in coordination with the US, and we know that the US is actively targeting Houthis in Yemen at present. Is it clear how the US and Israel are coordinated on the Houthis at this point?
Well, I think that Israel in the past conducted several attacks in Yemen in retaliation for Houthi missile and drone attacks on Israel. It has stopped doing that since the Trump administration launched its military campaign against the Houthis, because the U.S. said, let us take care of the Houthis. But over the last week or two, the Houthis have increased their missile attacks on Israel almost every day. There are such attacks. So the Israelis said, we had enough. We need to retaliate. Whether this will change anything on the ground, I doubt it. The Houthis don't seem to be deterred, and they make clear that they will stop firing those missiles once the war in Gaza ends. The war in Gaza doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon. And I think that if you look at the big picture for a moment, the Trump administration, or Trump himself, said that he's going to end forever wars. It seems that at least the Gaza war is becoming more and more a forever war that the Trump administration doesn't seem to want to stop.
Well, it's a conflict which has dominated this region. His trip next week is to see Gulf allies, all of whom are looking for de-escalation. They want to see an end to conflict in this region. They want to see more economic integration, not less. They don't want to see a policy of containment any longer, or maximalist approaches to conflict in this region. What do you expect from Trump's trip to the region, notably not to Israel?
Yes, and I think that's a very interesting point, that he's not going to Israel. And the reason he's not going to Israel is that, as one U.S. official told me, that he's not going to get anything out of a trip in Israel other than a headache. And this is because the Trump administration knows that the Gaza war is not going anywhere at the moment. And I think that what they realize more and more is that this war in Gaza could hijack Trump's whole agenda in the region, because it doesn't stay isolated in Gaza. It influences the entire region. And Trump is trying in this trip to Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar to focus on bilateral issues, investments, AI, weapon sales, but it never works. Because in every meeting, at least in Saudi Arabia, I'm sure that he's going to meet MBS, the Crown Prince, and on the second day he's going to have a summit with all the leaders of the GCC. All of them are going to mention Gaza this way or another. And I think Trump will hear it very, very clearly from those leaders during his trip.